So, first of all, welcome back from the small group discussions, which are a really important part of the symposium, giving the opportunity for dialogue between the participants of the symposium and between Ukrainian psychotherapists and European psychotherapists. And now the final part of our symposium is the round table, giving you the opportunity to ask questions or make comments to the speakers. And so I invite the moderators of our roundtable today, Professor Eugenijus Laurinaitis and Professor Larysa Didkovska, to join us, and also our 5 speakers and the 4 leaders of the sociodrama. And now I'll hand over to Eugenijus and Larysa.
So, dear friends, the order of this roundtable is generally very simple. We will take questions either from the wider audience or from each other to you too. And I had agreed with our organizing committee that questions, even comments, shouldn't be longer than 2 minutes because we have short of time indeed. And if you can answer as brief as possible, we will be very grateful too. Larysa, please, in Ukrainian.
Так. Well,
it means that, yes, we are happy to see everyone present here today, and we would like to tell you about the rules and the frames. So you have the opportunity to share your impressions, you have the opportunity to ask questions to the presenters that we have here and to our presenters of social drama, but you also have the opportunity to ask questions to each other, but please be as concise as possible. Do not take more than 2 minutes of time, and if you do it faster, we will be extremely grateful for that. I took some word from our interpreter, because she actually has already done this. She has interpreted this already. Now we I have question on social drama. It's rather to Olena Stupak. There was this thought that in sociodramatic technique or model gives this opportunity to change this, to change the person, and this freedom and dignity in big group and in the small group. And I had this question, whether there is this example, so that for some specific example on the scale of the whole country, maybe something happened, maybe there were some changes, some change of society, some when people got liberated from such war and torture, and maybe some principal change took place. Germany, for me, after the Second World War, I thought maybe Germany, but I don't think so, because still there were lots of things hidden there. And I have this question, whether there was something like this in history or not. Well, I probably will not be able to answer for the whole history of world and to provide you with the examples. It's just I'm thinking that sociodrama is this tool where we can, you know, how to put it correctly, to change in quality way, maybe faster than in our everyday cooperation. It is some kind of concentrated therapeutic situation. And I remember times of Maidan. We had sociodramas, we conducted sociodramas around situations on Maidan, because at the very Maidan, sociodrama was taking place right there and then. And at that time, it was very spontaneous and very natural. there were meetings from big letter M going on. People were cooperating there, people were exchanging internal senses, and they were creating new action. And for me, this is this prototype of what people can do. Sociodrama is just a way to somehow methodolize it, and it can be used in many platforms, in many aspects. I don't know how to put it. Sociotherapy of humanity is actually why psychodrama was created. But we have this opportunity to prove it.
Okay. Next question, please. You can put questions on the chat as well. We will read what are your questions and we'll see. Nobody writes on the chat.
Я зробив помилку. Це було після питання.
Made a mistake. I had this question after the Vilkas speech, not Olena's. When a therapist can change together with the client and then the change is going on. I had this question there, actually. I had this question there whether in political history there was such situation when some country came as a therapist and to other country that was traumatized into totalitarian regime and so on and so forth, war and things like that. And I did not find this example, whether it's possible or not. So who's this question going to? Well, it might go to everyone, to all participants of the round table, speakers. Thank you. On the individual level, I have heard that, yes, that's really like this, but is it possible on the level of small group? I don't know, maybe. Average, I don't know. Big, maybe. But on the level, is it possible on the where there are some examples in the history, whether it's possible on the level of countries, on the level of states, when one country is acting as a therapist of more, let's say healthier, yes, country, was like a therapist to the other country. I had such question after the speech.
I think at the South African Truth and Freedom Commission as one example of an attempt to do that.
I would like to give
I actually would like to say that those countries that were showing in action this support and then next to us in negotiations, in providing some tools of protection, actually providing some kind of action. It's also about some therapeutic effect, it seems to me, because the method, the exercise, the tool, that's how we teach. So that's how we treat. And as a country, as a nation, Europe, and gradually the USA, as a united nation in majority cases, is actually for us. And they are also kind of talking about, and they are stimulating, incentivizing the governments in other countries to provide the support and to provide such an aid. Well, in my opinion, it's like this, because it's through action, it's through presence. I let you in and I can come to you and I give it to you, and it is this cooperation within countries And it is something that can be felt. I can feel it, I can touch it, I can feel this aid, this support, whether it's medical, military, or it doesn't matter. There's some
I'm
kind of
sorry,
aid in
Bogdana,
resolving
2
conflict.
minutes are past. 2 минуты прошли. Okay, Lutz, please.
Yes, thank you. I think Germany is a good example that another country taught democracy. Germany had a fascist dictatorship during the Second World War, and then USA came and taught democracy by newspaper, by books, by schools, by a new group of politicians. Today, it's for Germany very, very strange that the big teacher, USA, changed to the fascistic part of history. It's a big disappointment.
Okay, maybe somebody else has any ideas or thoughts about psychodramatic approach to reconciliation of enemies?
Я подумала, що психодрама передбачає соціодрама в тому числі.
I think that psychodrama and sociodrama also has such powerful tool as exchange of roles. But we have very significant limitation. We do not exchange roles with the perpetrator because it is also not natural.
Anybody else?
Yes, I raised my hand. I don't know if you can see
Yes,
it.
yes, just a second, Nina,
Yes,
I see, but I wanted to finish the answering to previous
sorry.
question. Okay, Ron.
There was a time in the resolution, excuse me, in the, as far as I know, in the Northern Ireland conflict of whenever it was, 30 years ago, when one of the turning points was when the facilitator, who was an American, got people to actually change roles for a bit. And what it did was it helped them to understand that a lot of the things they were saying were messages to their own side to shore up their position, rather than something for, if you like, the opposition to hear. And so that enabled people to take a very different perspective on what was actually happening, and allowed a shift in the negotiations.
We have in our culture a sandbox proverb: who blames the other speaks about himself. So that's very interesting approach in listening to those who blame you. Okay, Nina, please.
Thank you. And thank you for this really, really interesting and very moving symposium. I have many thoughts and many reflections, but I know the time is short. One thing that I have considered, looking at the geopolitical situation as we have now, are some of the things that have been mentioned today. You know, the young theory about the dark shadow and the light shadow. In order to understand humanity, we also, in some way, need to experience cruelty, hate, these terrible situations. But what I also was curious about is that the human suffering, it's to the extent that it is so huge right now, and the lack of justice for so many people. How do you keep on keep up hope and dignity? And I think that Miroslav also talked a little bit about it, and thank you very much for that really, really lovely introduction that you have, Miroslav. But my question is, what are the steps ahead that we need to take? That in your opinion, big question, but yeah.
But Nina, maybe you want to address the question concretely to somebody.
Yes, maybe I want to address it to Miroslav. Yes.
If you mean me, then excuse me, but I am not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, so that's why it's difficult for me to answer such questions. Or maybe reformulate it, reword it so that it does not sound in very professional terms. Miroslav, it seems to me that you have answered this question already in your life, how to maintain this dignity and how to maintain this freedom and strength and resilience in difficult circumstances, and 10 years of your gulag and then year and a half of your solitary confinement. This is already giving you the answer that it is possible. It's just for this you need to be the way you are when you were talking. Okay, now I understand what was the question about, and I can answer in such a way that in my case the main role played this understanding of the fact that every power that is building its authority on lying, hatred, and atrocities will decay sooner or later. It will fall. It will fall and it will decompose. That's why, well, it's just illogical to have some kind of understanding and to follow the rules of the power that is going to lose. So that's why my choice was on the benefit of power without power, if to speak in the language of Václav Havel. So the spiritual power, the spiritual force that I was trying to achieve, and that is looking really powerless. It might be looking powerless, because what is the power of spirit in comparison with the power of KGB or with the power of FSB in Russia today? Yes, Federal Service of Security. But actually, this exact power of spirit is the one that is winning. This power, this force can lose several battles, but the last battle it will win. The force, and I mean this force of spirit and the power of spirit. So that's why it is giving me this feeling that you chose the correct way, you selected this correct way, and you need to withstand, irregardless of the pain that you have around you, of the different atrocity that you have around you. You are still going on. You still carry on. People were dying in front of my eyes. Those prisoners, political prisoners that knew that they were going to die. They knew that their life was coming to the end, but I did not see any kind of regret in their eyes for choosing that path of fight. It was conscious understanding that they lived the life in a correct way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Олена Ворона.
Дякую. Мене дуже зачепила.
Thank you. I was really touched by the story about this hut on the edge of the forest when bear was starting to come to this. And frankly speaking, yes, we can try to be very kind to this bear. We can give honey to this bear, and we can tell this bear, go to your forest and we are going to give you food. Or we can put some traps and we might hope that this bear will end up in this trap and this will be the end of the situation. We also can wait and just do nothing. And we can think that, well, okay, something might happen. Maybe this bear will be hit by thunder or whatever is happen, and we will still be able to survive. But somehow, in majority of cases, people were gathering and they were hunting this bear. I just wanted to share this reflection of mine about that. Thank you.
Так виглядає, що іншого ради немає.
Олександр Мироненко, рука
Олександр
догори.
Мироненко, please.
Окей, Олександр Мироненко.
I have such reflections, and in light of what Olena was talking about, I ask this question to myself, but I also ask this question to Mr. Miroslav Moronovich and maybe Lutz as well. On the one hand, we have this from the point of view of common sense, and we have this senseless atrocity, violence, this senseless violence to enemies, but also to our people, because our enemies, they do not feel compassion to their own people, and it is also senseless because it does not have any goal in itself. What I have heard today and what I am pretty sure about, to a certain extent, we can only from what Miroslav was talking about, that we have from God, through some divine powers, it's this dignity and freedom. No one can take it from us. But my question is whether it's enough. Yes, it is enough to remain human, but is it enough for us to be able to withstand now and not to lose?
Я думаю, що спробую відповісти.
Well, I will try to answer.
Думаю, що звичайно ж.
I think that, of course, this package of values does not have only one dignity in it. So if we are talking about victory and in particular victory over the cruel enemy, then we need to have the whole package of values, not only the feeling of our own dignity. Even though all those values are intertwined, they all strengthen each other. For example, let's say I have mentioned this triada, that I do not believe in hatred, in lie, and in violence. And from here, I would like to say that I believe in truth, in love, and I believe in mutual help. You can call it whatever you want to call it. And it all together is giving us this package, this opportunity to resist. You can call it maybe not help, but mercy, whatever you call it. But I would doubt only one word, even though I understand it emotionally: senseless. Senseless violence. For us, it looks senseless for us. I remember at the beginning of full-scale invasion, this Putin act of aggression, total aggression, was called madness, because we understand that it is bringing Russia to full collapse. But he does not think so. He believes that violence has every sense for him. And Ukrainians here will understand me, those who know about our history. The actions of Russia, of Tsarist Russia in Baturin, when they killed with knives all population of the city, it also was senseless. But were children to blame, those who were died, or women? But it made sense for them, because when violence is already going through some kind of threshold, some kind of red line, and it is passing this red line, very often people go away because they are not able to understand the very volume of this violence. And that's what this violence in Bucha and Irpin and in other cities was directed to make this violence so terrible that people got so terrified that they just stopped resisting. And thankfully, Ukrainian people understand that if they stop fighting, then whole Ukraine will turn into Bucha. There will be not only one or two cities like this, but whole Ukraine will turn into it. So that's why for aggressor, this violence has every sense, because it is giving the opportunity to receive this, to gain this freedom. And but Putin's dream is to, of course, recover the empire. And this is his dream, and he's talking about it pretty openly. Thank you.
Okay, so now frustrated rage. Sorry, could you introduce yourself by name? Sorry, turn on.
Peter
Yes.
Phillipson from Manchester, England. I want to say I have a strong reaction to what Professor Gertzman said, because I very much disagree. I think that human beings are many things. We can dance, we can love, we can hate, we can fight, but war isn't an emotional thing. War, for the people who start a war, is a rational activity. It's a conceptual activity about greater Russia or greater America, and I think that good and evil are similarly conceptual things, that people can be very kind sometimes, people can be very cruel sometimes, and that's natural for us and always has been. But to turn that into some kind of polarization of good and evil is not emotional. And it's what creates war, because you always think of yourself as good and somebody else as evil.
So what is the question?
It's not a question.
No question. It's just a comment.
Yes, I'd be interested in Professor Gertzman's answer.
So, Professor
Yes, I give an
Gertzman.
answer without question, because I understand your point of view. I think there are 2 points of view. The Christian point of view, or for example, the Christian, the creator is good, and this more skeptical point of view of modernism, of the modern writers, of the modern philosophers. Creator is bad. And I think it's the decision of you to say, no, the human being is good. That's your decision. And the decision of Hegel was, no, he thinks that the human being is bad, and the human being had to gain the goodness. Maybe, I don't know exactly, but maybe It's dependent of the experience, life experience, but also dependent of the life experience in the early childhood. If you say the human being is good or evil, I think both point of views. We can have both views, and I accept your view, of course.
Am I correct that Professor Marinovich would like to comment too?
Я хотів би, але до тих
I would
питань,
like to, but it's rather to those questions that are in the chat, because I started thinking about questions in the chat. Can I reflect to questions in the chat?
Please be so kind to wait 2 additional questions and then your turn will come. So Zvenislava and Roman, I would like you to ask what you want or tell what you want.
I would like to reflect, if you don't mind, not to ask. It was pretty provocative question, it seems to me, because there is significant differences in individual and group work. This is the first thing that I would like to say. Dzvinka, we do not hear you properly, unfortunately. If you try to answer this question of Sashko, then it seems to me that one state can influence the other only by force than in any other way. At least that's what I think, you have to talk historically. But, and it seems to me that there is some kind of dependent position even, to expect that someone might influence someone else, some culture, some different culture, in some kind of reformative way, democratic way, for instance. But then the other question, how it is going to influence the other country that is coming to the other territory, because I think that the history knows various cases, but I am more interested now in individual context, because in this, in my speech, I was talking about a famous Lviv philosopher, Roman Kis. He was writing about what is limiting our freedom. And for me, it was this huge revelation, because these are pretty paradoxic things. Because, for instance, knowledge, our knowledge, and the fact that we rely on our knowledge, they might create certain rigid system that we exist in. And in many cases, it is limiting us. He is also referring to that fact that this huge choice that we can have, the most versatile choice, however strange it might sound, is, as they say in German, those who have a choice, they have tortures, because choice can also limit us. But at the same time, conformism is bringing us also to pretty rigid frames. Once again, regressive situation, this position of dependence on someone, that our freedom and our space, our choice depends on someone, it is also limiting our freedom. And what I'm trying to talk about today, what we're talking about our this group process, it is also limiting us. So we as individuals are lost here. And if to talk about Lacan, hello Lutz, because you were talking about Lacan today, the idea of Lacan was that language as the structure, yes, and this opportunity to structure our perception and understanding and worries, it is already limitation in itself. And what Lacan was talking, was naming real, it was actually rudiment of something that other person can never feel, because the language as structure is not creating such limitations. So that's why to ask this question, what can we do not to lose the freedom and to have it, to own it, and to help each other? Well, we can try to use this idea and such thoughts. I would like to use this opportunity while I have the mic on. I would like to reflect also on this idea of senseless violence. And I agree with you, Mr. Miroslav, that this violence is very clear for them. It's not only in the fact that it needs to look senseless, but it needs to look not optional. Because if the violence is total and not optional, then the only way to omit this violence is to identify with the one performing this violence. So the only way to omit violence from Russians to become Russian. That's why some Chechens are now perceive themselves like Russians. It is this big Russian nation. In psychoanalysis, this is called identification with the aggressor. So in other words, that in eyes of civilized person does not look like something that has sense. That's how they make suppressed nations to acknowledge their superiority and to become Russians. So that's how they kind of increase this this empire. So it is terrible. I would even say medieval way, because we can say that Ottoman Empire was using similar ways through the through their methods as well. How they were finding, for example, fighters for themselves, yes, how they janissaries. So for us, it's looking like something like barbarian or something like this.
I understand that these were your comments. You don't ask anybody a question. Okay, so Larysa, please. I'm sorry I, in a way, dominated, but you told yourself that I will supply the order, you will supply the love.
That's true. That's like about mommy and daddy. Someone is for frames, the other one is responsible for frames, the other one is responsible for love. So I would like to say a few things, and I would like to reflect to what Peter was talking about and to express my gratitude to him for that, because we do not choose to end up and to live in war. It was not our choice, but we are choosing whether to be victims or fighters. This is already our choice. And the first who wrote about it was actually Peter Philipson. He wrote it to us on the 21st of February 2022, and he wrote us, "You are not victims, you are fighters." The war was going on for several hours in that time. And at that time, we did not know whether we were victims or fighters, whether we had enough resources. So now when I'm listening to Mr. Miroslav, I understand that he decided not to be the victim. And those who were dying without having any regrets about their life, they were not victims, they were fighters. So thank you that we can make this choice ourselves. And thank you for making it for us as well, Miroslav. And all the others that are also with us on that path of fighting. I also love this metaphor that created during this, that we had during the small group discussion. It is also about quantity, what we can influence, what we can change. And the answer was actually without any kind of alternatives. We add salt to any kind of food. We do not add lots of salt, but it is changing the taste of dish dramatically, significantly, or some other kind of spices or herbs. You do not add a lot of it, but it is changing the taste of what it is added to. That's why I would like to say that even if we might have not a lot of something, it can still change what we added to. Thank you. I'm not going to speak.
Thank you, Larysa. So, Professor Marinovich, please.
Дякую.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Yes, okay, because I decided to use my headphones. So, the first question in the chat, it's about reconciliation of enemies. Can we talk about this under the gun? No, we cannot. Definitely we cannot do this because reconciliation means, and truth means goodwill. And if we are talking about it at gunpoint, then reconciliation is impossible. Reconciliation means that there should be the whole range of precondition steps. It is this acknowledgement of the fact of aggression and crime. Some side should agree on it voluntarily, because only in this case there might be some kind of moral feelings that also the preconditions of reconciliation, and probably even one of the biggest precondition of reconciliation. We need to have this repentance. Apart from that, there should be the criminals should be brought to responsibility. There should be moral and material restitution. And as you can see, all this complex presupposes voluntarily steps, maybe in judging someone not voluntarily, because no one is going to bring you to the court on your own, but at the same time to moral court, to the court of conscience, this perpetrator or this criminal should come voluntarily. Otherwise, it's not going to be the act of moral repentance. The second question from the chat, we are surprised how Europe is tolerating this total evil from Russia. Maybe we need to ask God to become our judge, because humanity cannot deal with this madness. Well, I would like to mention here that Professor Gutzman today mentioned that Hegel was stating that the evil should happen, because only then it can be overcome. Maybe I am a little bit paraphrasing Hegel, but I like this idea. I like this thought. I was thinking about it a lot. Because, you know, we in Ukraine were surprised for so long why the real character of Putin regime today or Russian Empire in the world is not understood at all. And any kind of attempts from our side to explain all of this were perceived in the world as nationalism, as this desire to aggressively interpret Russian nature that was not understandable, mystical, and so on and so forth. But because this evil is now so well defined, humanity will come to that fact that you need to deal with this evil. You need to solve this problem. You somehow need to liquidate it, eliminate this evil. And I am not going to dispute about methods here. I'm just talking that humanity should deal with this evil and should overcome this evil. And the last question or comment from the chat that I would like to tackle. Well, actually, it was this one. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Дякую. So, Diana, I'm sorry, but you say no word yet. Maybe you have some your own impressions or ideas just to share with our round table, which is not very round.
Were you asking me, Eugenijus?
Yes, you, Diana.
Anything I want to say? It's been a fascinating day. I feel very pleased with the sociodrama that we did, and I hope that it shows how we can work with multi-layered discussions and issues at the same time. And because everyone is in a role, we're not doing therapy. It can be therapeutic, but we're not doing therapy. We're not consciously seeking individual or group change. We're seeking group understanding of our contract, our issue. So the topic today was freedom and dignity and meaning. And it would be my contention that everything that was done in the sociodrama was looking at the issues of freedom and dignity and meaning for the wider diaspora of Ukrainian people and the European people who are connected into the issue. We explore issues. Sometimes it leads to actual action out in the world. Sometimes it is simply exploring what we are not going to be able to change on a big scale in the world, but which we can have impact in our own context. So I guess I just want to say thank you very much for us to be invited to be here. And that's it, really. Thank you for asking me.
I have one question to Zvenislava. You described in your case, in the first period of your analysis, quite strong feelings of countertransference. And how did you deal with it?
Дякую.
Thank you.
Мені треба було багато часу,
I needed lots of time,
багато терпіння,
lots of patience,
багато любові, якщо ми
lots of
сьогодні
love,
говоримо про любов.
if we are talking today about love as well. Even though in that situation it was complicated and difficult, as you understand, I had lots of rejection because of my culture, because of my values. And it was felt, of course, the patient knew of what cultural layer I was belonging to, because, and I do belong to, it's impossible to hide it. It was difficult, but we managed to overcome it together. Thank you. It was probably the longest period for me. I needed lots of efforts. Well, we both needed efforts, mutual efforts. Probably she needed me the same way I needed her.
But do I understand correctly that you didn't ask for help for your supervisor?
Звичайно, у мене була супервізія, звичайно.
I did have supervision, of course I did.
Я можу сказати
Okay.
ім'я супервізора.
I even can give you the name of that supervisor.
No, thank you. I don't think we need such details, but I mean that in the process of such intensity, the supervision sometimes are the only help.
Обов'язково, так, супервізія це
Of
обов'язково.
course, yes, supervision was something that was really needed. Thank you for your question.
So now I want to ask Larysa, please tell what you want to all our round table, because I was intervening too much. Please.
Ні, я навіть руку піднімала і виступала.
I even had my hand raised and I was already speaking, but well, thank you, Eugenijus, thank you for this offer to speak now. The most important thing that I wanted to mention, that all these three words that we had in the title of our today's symposium were broadcast for me by all the participants. Dignity, freedom, meaning. It was in the speeches of our speakers, in sociodrama, in feedbacks. During the whole day today, we were talking about this freedom and how can it be nourished, increased, felt, lived through. We were talking about dignity, whether it's possible as well to somehow nourished or intensified, and meaning. I think that this whole day for me today was actually about feeling all these words, and so that they become more, and so that they can have more weight. That's it. And now I would like to offer Eugenijus to say something as second host of this roundtable.
Dear colleagues, I'm really amazed how both practical and scientific our symposiums happen to be, and this was not the exception. Indeed, I was listening very carefully to Professor Marinovich's presentation because I had myself some experiences with that. I knew personally Semyon Gluzman. We have been in some conferences together with him. But also I was amazed by Professor Gottsman and families of Kechur presentations of their scientific level. So I am very happy about our symposium today, but I think that the general evaluation belongs to our chairperson, Patricia Hunt. So Patricia, please.
Thank you, Eugenijus. Thank you, Larysa. So in bringing this 10th symposium to a close, my first words are thanks to our distinguished speakers who have given us their wisdom and their time, and also they've given their time for free. And this means that we can offer these symposiums for free, particularly to everyone in Ukraine. And this, to me, is very, very important. So thank you for your generosity of spirit and heart and time to help that, to make that possible. So thank you to Miroslav, to Lutz, to Zvenislava, and to Roman. It's good to see both of you together on a screen. That's somehow very touching. And then thank you to the leaders of our sociodrama. You have brought your 3.5 years of work right into the heart of our symposium in a very powerful and meaningful way. So thank you to Elena Stupak for bringing all that together. Thank you to Elena Kuchinska and to Ron and to Diane for bringing us the wisdom and the truths that come through the sociodrama. I'm happy to hear, Diane, that you are happy with what happened today. That helps us to know, good, this was really important. And then two other such important people to thank is Martinas, our technology expert, who might put himself on the screen now, but he makes all of this, he does magic all the time and just makes all of this possible, makes our superb website, which is now an archive of all this excellent scientific and humanitarian wisdom that we've gathered over these 10 symposiums. It's the work he's doing, supporting us, is absolutely vital, life-giving to these symposiums. Thank you, Martinas. And thank you to Anastasia. This is now her 10th symposium with us as translator, giving us these extraordinary simultaneous translations, often of scientific content, technological content, psychoanalytic content, but coming through with clarity and just wonderful translations that just make all of this possible. You've seen on the screen that we will have 2 further symposiums this year. On Friday, June the 19th will be our 11th. On Friday, November the 20th will be our 3rd. So there is the information on the screen. And Martinez, if you would just put it back to me now, I just have one final thing that I would like to say. So if you just put the screen back to me, if I just, the candle, the light of the candle is still burning. As you see, it's burned down, but it is still burning and holding for us the light that's come from everything that we have shared today about freedom and dignity and meaning. And some of the words I'm left with are Miroslav's, when he said, if authority is built on lies, atrocities, dictatorship, senseless violence that's not even optional, it will fall. It will fail. And bringing in Lutz's thought from Hegel, at that point, the violence, the evil has been defined. It's been defined. And now it becomes something that can be opposed. Now it becomes something that humanity can gather and oppose. And so at that point, we move in a different direction. The power of the spirit, the power of good will win. It seems like a small process. It seems not strong enough, but it is strong enough. Miroslav's own experience demonstrates it's strong enough. Our clinical work over and over again demonstrates that it's strong enough. So we hold this light that the war will end and the good will have triumphed and will prevail. So with that hopeful thought, I wish you a good bye. Thank you very much for your participation in our symposium. Thank you very much for continuing to join this community of people who are holding this kind of light during this full-scale war in Ukraine. Take care, be safe, go well. Bye-bye.